going slower, so it's good. It's good.
All right. Hello, Lucy. I'm Richard. And I'm going to start off by saying that police departments throughout the country have been questioned about their use of unnecessary force and potential racism, which has made the American people wonder what action should be taken. Are the police of America doing more harm than good? And if so, what should be done to fix this problem? One solution would be defunding the police and using that money elsewhere. While this may only be a temporary solution, the benefits of defunding the police cannot be ignored. And we as a country must acknowledge this method as a viable option in our fight against oppression and brutality. We must move past the riots and take a step forward as a country and do something about the problems instead of just watching them and hoping they solve themselves. Okay.
Hi, Richard. My name is Lucy, of course. Let's start by this. Police officers go to work on a daily basis, just as you and I. They do their job as best as they can to protect us and to protect the community, as well as to prevent crime from being happen. They sometimes do risk their lives, and this goes unnoticed. They are here to enforce the law. If not them, then who will?
I don't know. Okay. Well, I'm gonna start by saying defunding the police can free up money and support creating a better overall community and a safer environment for the people of America. According to an article from ACLU, LA has a budget of $10.5 billion. That's a lot of money. And almost a third of that money goes straight to the police. That's 3.14 billion. That money could be used for different things like community services, economic development, and housing. And those things only combine for around $110 million of the budget, which is very minuscule compared to the 3.14 billion. So if the city defunded the police, they could free up nearly a third of the city's budget and use that money to improve the community. Improving the community wouldn't just make things pretty, it would reduce crime by creating more housing to get people off the streets. And that's one step in getting a safer environment for our society. It's also safe to assume that helping the city's economy will create more jobs. This will reduce petty crimes and allow people to live their life without depending on crime-related activities. Clearly, the money is being spent on the police force, and it's not being used properly. There's a lot of space that needs improvement, and instead of just throwing all this money into police, we need to focus on our society and our community and improve what we already have instead of policing it and watching it get worse and worse. So by giving money to the community, we can reduce crime and therefore reduce the need for the amount of police that we have. It's really ridiculous that that much money is being spent on the police, and this little amount of money is being spent on our actual community. And I think it's time for a change, and it should happen soon, hopefully. Okay.
In an article by Johnson and James G. Galliano, retired law enforcement leaders with combined half-century police experience have mentioned defunding the police, dismantling the police means a lot of things to different people. Let me explain to you what defunding the police is. Defunding the police is reducing the police budget and directing it into other services. As they state, defunding the police can leave those that need that emergency need. There will be nobody to help them. Why? Because the budget's being cut out. Yes, we are looking into getting other people educated, getting into other jobs, getting into more health services, mental health services. The police have taken responsibilities and roles that don't pertain to them, and this has led for them to, have a different reaction or not the proper training for those services, as you mentioned. Police conduct needs to be better. Yes, for this we need more training. For this, it's the budget that it's needed. If they're cutting the budget and they don't have enough backup, how are they going to react? Are they going to use more violence? Are they going to be more helpful? If they know that nobody's going to come and help them on a crisis of somebody overreacting, how are we going to de-escalate the whole situation?
Okay, but the police department, I'm gonna build off my last argument and also talk about what you were saying by saying that the police department is not being properly trained. So even though they have all this money being poured to them and they need more training, the training that they're getting isn't what they need. They need to be trained to deal with people that have mental illnesses first off. There are people that are trained and know how to work with individuals that have mental illnesses without the use of violence. The police department is trained to react physically if there's any kind of threat. And there may seem like there's a threat if there's someone that's unstable, that has a mental illness. And it's not good in situations like that. It can just escalate a situation, make things worse if a police officer comes in too aggressively and doesn't know how to handle a situation with a mentally ill individual. There's people that can handle these situations, like EMTs, for example, and we can use those individuals in place of the police when needed for situations like this. Sure, the police are needed for more extreme crimes, but for these petty crimes, these small things, they can shoot the money somewhere else and give more money to EMTs so that they can handle situations like this without a struggle. This would allow, defunding the police would allow way more funding for programs like this, and it would decrease unnecessary violence in the community and help the people that need it. The police are trained to mostly stop extreme situations and cannot always handle the smaller ones, even though the smaller ones are most of their job. Delicate things that happen on a daily basis could just be elevated, and police can cause more problems, and they have been causing more problems. House parties, homelessness, and barking dogs, for example, are not very high on the list for police training, yet they are what the police have to deal with. This is demonstrated in the article by procon.org, top 3 pros and cons of defunding the police. So the police are being used for situations that they aren't trained properly to handle. And because of that, situations are escalating and more problems are occurring. This is causing people to be incarcerated that do not need to be incarcerated. And it's causing us to spend more money on jails and other things of that sort. So all this money that's being spent on the police training is being wasted, pretty much. Okay.
So let's ask this question. Is the police being put on that particular situation where they are not properly trained, or is the action being committed at that point in time that the officers have to react to this action? Again, article with Christine Cole and Charles Ramsey, in a founding partner with 21CP Police Solutions. He was a chief Metropolitan Police Department in Washington from 1998 to 2007. Retired police commissioner of Philadelphia, 2016. They advocate for behalf of the police utilizing funds to properly train officers to de-escalate confrontations, which needed. Police needs to get proper training, and other funding should be utilized, as mentioned, to take away this weight that the officers have been taking, not because they have chosen to, but because the situation has happened. Police officers are here to enforce the law. They control traffic, they patrol neighborhoods, they arrest criminals. Nevertheless, they prevent crimes such as confiscating firearms, controlling drug trafficking, responding to emergencies as car accidents, robberies. All these situations can lead to those escalating violent behaviors. Officers need to be trained properly, yes, and they need to be as well, in my belief, given psychological training due to them being put in these situations. That way, that will help de-escalate the whole violent crime and situation overall.
Okay. Well, it's also been shown that simply reforming the police is not going to work. There's been reform tactics in the past and they have been proven ineffective. So unless we start from scratch, simple reform will not be a viable solution. According to the AFSC, reform attempts in Minneapolis proved officers who were given body cams constantly turned them off. And other officers that were in charge of training were the ones previously accused of abuses. So this training is being done by officers that are the problem. The officers that are the problem in our society are the ones that are training the up and coming officers. So even if they are being trained, trying to be trained on the right things, they're being trained by people that don't do the right things, that aren't leading by example. So really, in order to successfully reform the police department, everyone would have to be purged. All the cops that have records would have to be fired. And that's not really an easy thing to do. And then they'd have to be trained by somebody, trained by an unbiased individual, which is another thing that's not very easy to find. So defunding the police department and finding other ways to support the community is the best option as of right now. Until we can successfully find a way to create an unbiased form of policing, then there's no way to be sure that our police officers are the best trained and our community is as safe as it could possibly be. If we don't get rid of the officers and start fresh from what we have right now, then it's an endless cycle of oppression that cannot be fixed. So in order to fix this, we have to start fresh, like I said before. And that's not very easy to do. So for the time being, defunding the police and figuring out a way to solve this problem is our best option. Okay.
Okay, the tribute review speaks for the people. This article focuses on positive effect of the police. How are we going to retain those good officers if that percentage of violent or non-good officers are being pointed out? How are we going to retain the good officers? Now, on this article, a new Kingston officer, Brian Shaw of New Kingston, made the ultimate sacrifice in 2017. Police officers have died in the line of duty helping others. And this often goes unnoticed.
Okay, so for my conclusion, I will be saying that the police may be an important part of society, but it's only because we make them important. If we focus on improving our communities and help the people that need help when they need it, we can reduce crime and our dependence on the police. Let's fix our problems instead of just containing them. Just watching what we have now and letting things stay the same is not a solution. Obviously, we have a problem with our police departments. There's been rioting all year long because of it. If you don't realize that as a sign that something needs to change, then you should get your eyes checked. I'm sorry, but our country is in a state of panic, and if we don't do something soon, nothing is gonna get better, and things are just gonna escalate. So I say we start by trying to get homeless people off the streets, helping our economy and creating jobs for those that need them. The way to do this is by defunding the police and using the money that we're sending to them and putting it elsewhere and improving instead of just sitting back and hoping it'll fix itself. We need to let the people best equipped to handle situations handle them, instead of sending the police to situations that they aren't needed, that they're being wasted at. We can send people that are better trained to handle these kind of situations and contain them in a way that doesn't escalate situations, that minimizes violence and creates a safer society. So if we do all this together, we can stop racial oppression, create a less violent and more just society, and overall just be a better country. And it all starts with making a change. Okay.
On this hand, those situations, once again, we don't know what the state or the emotion is when the officer are called to a scene. We don't know what the issue is. So how are we to determine what it's needed at that point in time? Police officers have a high-risk job. They go out, put their lives in danger, prevent crime, protect us when we need them the most. In those cases of an emergencies, where are we going to get those officers? For small cities, for small towns, for example, the one that I live on, I have to get the sheriff department here, and it does take a while. What if there's not enough police because the budgets have been cut? Let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this. Are you guys willing to risk your lives for a complete stranger? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Hope you guys have a good day. Thank you, Lucy. All
Thank
right.
you for your help. Bye.